Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first showcase of our Changemakers. We are really delighted that you've all been able to make it tonight, but we also want to thank particularly our host, Tom Boyce. Where is Tom? Thank you, Tom. Tom has been a great supporter of the Sisters and the Foundation for many, many years. He was actually the chair of the Grants Allocation Committee for a long time and has really committed to the whole mission and tradition of the Sisters of Charity Foundation. So thank you, Tom, for backing us tonight and opening up the offices. Thank you so much. I would like to make an acknowledgement to country. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land we're on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and express our gratitude that we all can share this land together today. It's a big time, isn't it, when we've got the campaign happening, but we hope you're all holding fast there. So tonight is a night to thank you for your generosity. If we didn't have you supporting the foundation, we couldn't actually showcase the great 4 programs that we're going to showcase tonight. I'm going to try and be Michael Parkinson, but a younger Michael Parkinson. So I won't be intrusive. We've got a brilliant panellist, and our first panellist is Sister Anne Mayberry, and she's part of community care, and she is responsible for remote and rural ministry for New South Wales. And she'll talk to us about her trips to the country. And then the next panellist is Claudia Cummins, and she's been so fantastic to us because she has been our key lead with the Transitional Housing Program for Modern Slavery, which is, it was a very big thing for the Sisters to move into this area, even though the Sisters have had a global commitment to eradicating modern slavery. But the first program that we've ever done in this area started in 2020, and we've been working in this area for 3.5 years, and Claudia has been our key person. And I also suggest that to gather any extra information, we have a fantastic video of Claudia on our website, and it's full of good information so that gives you greater insight into the whole issue in Australia of modern slavery. The latest global index, which was released earlier this year, showed that we are seeing 41,000 people in Australia who've been affected by modern slavery and 16,400. So it's a really big issue, and we are providing a unique program because we're providing housing, and I'll go into that a bit further. And our next speaker is Andrea Comastri, who is actually the CEO and co-founder of Hotel Etico, and he has been a recipient of 3 community grants, and he'll talk to you about Hotel Etico, which is the first social enterprise hotel in Australia. A really brilliant model which is just growing and flourishing, and I have to tell you, every time I go there I just go, oh, this is amazing, and I'm so glad that the Sisters of Charity Foundation got behind right from the beginning. And then last but not least, Shantell Hill is an alumni of the scholarship program, and Shantell's going to tell us about having her dream job and what it meant being when she received her scholarship. So I will take my position and we will start our questions.
Oh, thank you, Louise, and thanks everyone. It is true, without your support, we wouldn't literally be where we're at with a social enterprise. You were there from the beginning with others, but the $15,000 that went to establish the first Academy of Independence, which is the heart of Hotel Etico, which is where the trainees live on site while they work. That money allowed us to put beds and kitchen and equipment and furniture and everything that they need to carry a normal life within their shared apartment. So what does a regular week, a normal week, look like at the academy? I think you could write a book or do a documentary, and in fact, that probably will be in the near future. But it's crazy. it's exciting. It's full of emotions, full of tears, full of the relationships. So we started with 6 trainees. Now we have 15. So the first group of 6 stayed there for 12 months, and then the next group of 12 stayed there for another 12 months, and now we have 15. We've expanded to 15. So there are 15, 18 to 35 years old boys and girls who live there with some support and work in the hotel. And so you can imagine it's shared accommodation. It's whatever happens in a shared accommodation with young people. So anything from relationships to arguments to playing to cooking together to doing everything you want to do when you're together. But and they do it independently. They do their shopping. They learn to look after their bedrooms, clean their bathrooms, order food, cook food, and everything else. And that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is to give them a context with some support to not only teach hospitality skills, which are essential for them to then build a career in hospitality and work towards independence, but also give them those independent living skills that are taken for granted by all of us. And those two together combine in a magical way because they feed off each other. We talk about the hotel as being the big home. It's like a big home. Mm-hmm. So you welcome a guest like you welcome a guest at home. You make a bed for a guest like you make your own bed. You clean a bathroom like you clean a bathroom at home, and everything else that goes with that. And so there's sort of that amazing combination of skills and activities that just transform their lives. And that's only part of the transformation that we create. And we can talk about a little bit more about other areas of what we do. But a typical week is arrive, unpack, prepare food, look up at your roster if you haven't looked it up before on your mobile, because it's all digitally done. Go to work, iron your shirt, go to work, be presentable, make sure your hair is presentable and done up, and then do the shift, and then work and get feedback and get supported, and then go back. And then maybe on a Friday night, if you're not rostered, you can join in and watch the live music and get a drink in the bar. And so they're completely, fully integrated in the program, in the life of the business. They're front and center. They are completely part of the business and essential to the success of the business. And it's a social enterprise, so we derive our revenue, yes, part from philanthropy, a small part, but also then from commercial revenue and from NDIS. We are an NDIS provider. All of that creates this magical place that is able to create these opportunities, and the feedback is amazing from the trainees and their families. And once they graduate after 12 months, they're placed in further open employment, supported to place in further open employment, and supported for another 12 months. And we support the employers. So we've created a range of partnerships with large employers, including the Fullerton across the road, Sofitel, Fairmont up in the Blue Mountains, and a few others. And we work with the employers to make sure that they can employ and continue to employ and support our graduates. And we follow them for another minimum of 12 months, if not longer. And so far, 100% success. And it's just overwhelming, the success that we've had. And it has been because of the support of people like you, which has been instrumental. First academy, when we doubled, the second yes. academy was the second grant, and then the third grant came as a scholarship fund for those that don't have a full package availability of the NDIS and they need to top it up. And that has helped some of our trainees, and I'll talk to you later about a couple of them that have been able to continue because of that. So it's been very, very targeted and very, very effective.
Do you want to tell us about Art Trainee that you...
One of them?
Yes, like
I can talk to you about, for example, Shay. Shay is one of the ones that was able to benefit for a short amount of time with the scholarship, from the scholarship. Shay started in May last year. Young man, 20-year-old young man who... within 2 or 3 months of the program already indicated that wanted to find other work as well. and we opened the door with a Fullerton, and he got a job in July, August last year with a Fullerton, and he's been working there ever since, and while continuing to do the program and graduating in July this year. He now works 5 days a week, both as a porter and as a barman at the Fullerton, and now is actually being joined by 2 other graduates of our program. And Shay's got the biggest smile, beautiful young man, dresses like a star, Hollywood star. He loves sport. He's a pain in the neck in terms of wanting to watch sport all the time instead of working, and it's after work. And he said, no, there's rules, but he never gave up, and that shows his determination. Like, his determination to succeed in life, and he's just the happiest man out there, and he wanted to do that, and he did it, and he's just an amazing example of success.
And so, Andrea, do the people come locally, like from the mountains?
No, because the program is residential, they come from pretty much 2 hours east, west, north and south of Mount Victoria. So we have their accommodation there. So we started by being open only 4 days a week, 3-4 days a week. And so they were coming on a Wednesday and leaving on a Sunday and overlapping in 2 groups. Now we actually open 7 days as a hotel. So probably in future, the program will change a little bit. But the actual going back home and coming in independently is actually very much part of the program, because that independent travel is a key thing that traditionally a parent with a child with disability doesn't really allow, is scared, very protective, and so we've knocking down those barriers with the parents as well. And so first they come by car, then they come by train with the parent, then they come halfway with the parent, and then they come by themselves or with someone else, and it's amazing. And so they come from everywhere. So we have, I think the furthest east and north we've gone is Balgowlah Heights, all the way down to Goulburn, all the way down to Sutherland Shire, and anything in between. So yes, some from the Blue Mountains, but the majority have been from everywhere else. And that's the beauty of it, because it's residential, and so it's fantastic. And then we found them work near where they go back, wherever they want to go back to.
And how's the community responded to Hotel Etico?
Amazing. So the local community, it's one of the key ingredients of the success of Hotel Etico. We said from the beginning we want to find a place where there is a community around it that sort of embraces the model and supports it from, patronising the business. So the local community has been amazing, plus the wider community. I mean, the feedback that we're getting, the goodwill that we've been able to build, thanks to the support that we've got at all different levels, has been overwhelming. The parents are extremely active in providing feedback, supporting. They're the biggest advocates. We've got all these WhatsApp chats groups going, and they just melt our hearts every week. We cry. Saraya and I, who's here with me as a general manager, we cry every week, literally every week, if not every day, from joy. And it's just amazing stories, and the support, the advocacy, the anecdotal stuff. Put a LinkedIn post and saying, I'm looking for some money to buy a ride-on lawnmower because we want to start a maintenance program and gardening program. Day after, one of the parents calls up and says, I want to give you $3,000. Instead of going on holiday, we put the money aside. We want to give it to you to buy a ride-on lawnmower. So we bought the ride-on lawnmower, and what got delivered last week, and did my first ride myself. And now I need to train everybody else. But that goes with everything else. We did a working bee a couple of weeks ago, and we had trainees, and we had families, and we had guests, and we had funders, and took the whole building basically by storm, and painted everything, and gardening, and replaced things, and fixed shower heads, and it's just an amazing experience, and I can't get enough of it. I work on it 24/7 with Saraya, and we just can't get enough of it. I want 14, not 24/7. I just want more and more and more, and there will be more.
I think it's fantastic. It's a real example of your commitment, because it has been a total personal commitment, even though he still is about to run the marathon, and he does run 100 kilometres this way and that way, and has a family and all of that. But what are your future plans?
Yeah, our vision is to be present in every state and territory in Australia over the next 10 years. So we will be. We are working really hard and great dedication already towards that objective. We're quite agnostic about where to start with. We want to be everywhere. There's no reason why there shouldn't be a hotel in every town, in every city that has the same purpose. And so it will probably start with the Eastern Seaboard, whether it's Queensland, New South Victoria or ACT, whatever we can manage, because we want to control that growth. And obviously there are big challenges in that, but we know that it works. We've demonstrated that it works. We're self-sustainable by ourselves. We get a little bit of philanthropy to help us grow, but apart from that, the business itself is sustainable. It's half commercial, half NDIS. And we just demonstrate that it works and the impact is there. And so, yes, the future will be, I'm hoping that within the next 12 months we can get the keys to another place, and then another one, and then I think we are unstoppable. I know it sounds a bit cocky, but I think we are unstoppable because the model is amazing, and we can't just claim the model to ourselves. It's a model that was born in Italy 10 years ago. The first hotel was born in northern Italy. It replicated throughout a number of different cities in Italy, and it keeps growing. And we've adapted it, in my opinion, improved it, and expanded it in Australia and adapted it to the local context. Obviously, the NDIS is a great component and help of the model, but philanthropy has been instrumental for us.
It's just amazing what you've achieved. But I have to say, because I've been really fortunate to be at the graduations, I've been to 3 of the graduations, and you can just see the influence and the impact on those families, that they never ever thought that their child would actually be independent, live independently, go on transport, and now have the talents to actually create a career. And it was really nice, and you would have seen it, those of you who read the newsletter, I'm sure everybody reads it, but there was actually a bit of an article about some of the students that we actually caught up with last time.
Yeah, and there are nice videos of the graduation and other things as well on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. I'm sure it's easy to find, and so we'll be happy to share it. And it's really because at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, and you want to hear the voices of the trainees and their families. They're the ones that tell you whether you've succeeded or not. I can talk about it till the cows come home, but you need to hear it from them, and you will hear it from them in those videos. It's just an amazing testimonial of it, and we're really excited about it. And then obviously the employers, because the employers are really embracing this, and we're making a difference in their culture. We're transforming their culture, their inclusivity, and their openness to understand and employ and work with people with disability, which then benefits their business, obviously, right? It's an obvious thing, both in terms of employment culture, but also about guests, because the old saying within the NDIS space is you can't be what you can't see. And so once you see someone like Shay, someone like Alex, someone like Queen and everybody else working in your environment, then you realize, hey, I can do that too. And so we have more and more guests with families, with children with disability that come, for example, and experience the hotel because they hear about us and they say, I want to see what it's about. And then they become like totally, won over, and the same goes for every other guest. Every single guest that walks through the door walks away completely transformed, unless they were already sort of on that camp. It's an amazing experience, and we love having those conversations. As you can hear, I like talking. We love having those conversations with our guests over dinner, over the bar, just around the hotel. It's really, apart from the feedback that we get that makes you feel good, but sort of people that are curious about why we do it, what we do, and how we do it. It is an amazing model. I totally agree.
Definitely should put it on your itinerary. If you're going to the mountains, you need to be staying at Hotel Etico at Mount Victoria, which is a lovely little village. It's got a real character.
Yeah, it's a building. It's a building that was built by John Fairfax in 1876. It's a heritage building. It's got 15 rooms, lots of fireplaces, lots of beautiful nooks and crannies. It's a beautiful bar, beautiful restaurant, open Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Live music every Friday night with local musicians. It's a great place to be. You need to book in advance because there's quite a bit of demand, especially on a weekend. But it's a great place. I totally agree. I love being there. It's especially this season. Well, autumn is beautiful and winter's beautiful because of the fires and everything. But at the moment, the colours are just unbelievable. There's pinks and yellow and reds, and it's an amazing, amazing season at the moment. It's really beautiful.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to move on to Shantell, who's our second speaker. And Shantell, as I said, Shantell Hill is a registered nurse at Cobham Youth Justice Centre. And she is actually an alumni of the Tertiary Scholarship Program, Annual in Out-of-Home Care. And since the program started in 2012, we've had 21 graduates. We have 25 in the program, and this year we were very fortunate to have some really generous supporters, and many of them are in the room. We actually were able to offer 11 scholarships, so it was the biggest number of scholarships, and we're hoping to be able to offer a similar amount this year as well. So the program's going very, very well. But Shantell graduated from the Australian Catholic University in 2021 with a Bachelor of Nursing, that's correct. And now you've got your dream job. Is that what you'd say it is?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone and for having me. You're really hard to follow up.
No. Different perspective, Shantell.
But, I'm going to speak about how this scholarship changed my life, but thank you so much. And it really is life-changing. But, yes, I do have my dream job.
So do I.
What was the question?
Well, why don't you tell us why you chose nursing? Why did you choose your degree in nursing? 'Cause
I guess... Well, I have a strong interest in the human body. I think it's amazing. And I like to think I'm a compassionate person. I like to help people, and I just think it's a really noble career, and you have to be really caring. I don't know. I love nursing. I've always wanted to do it, so.
And tell me, how did you feel when you knew that you'd won the scholarship? Because
I still remember exactly where I was. I remember it like it was yesterday. I called my husband straight away. I cried, of course. I just knew how life-changing it would be. I really didn't expect to get it because it was such an amazing opportunity. But, yeah, we went out for dinner, I think. Like, we had a big party. It was really exciting. Yeah.
And Shantell, how did the scholarship help you when you were doing your study?
I mean, well, it paid for my tuition, and even to this day, like, my friends are still paying their HECS debt, but I don't have to, so. But in terms of, like, at uni, I was also the popular one at uni because I had all the textbooks because they were so expensive, but I had them all. But, I mean, all of my uniforms were paid for, down to my shoes, all the equipment, which can be really expensive. I also lived in the Hawkesbury, and so I went to Sydney, to uni in North Sydney. So I'd have to travel like 2 hours each way. And so like all of my train fares and stuff were covered. So it was a huge help. And it made it like I was able to take time off work to be able to go to uni. So that relieved the pressure as well.
Didn't have to have lots of other jobs.
Yeah.
Good. Tell us about this dream job, because we had a little bit of a discussion beforehand and it did sound like you were very committed to this area of supporting young people who are in the juvenile justice system.
Mm-hmm. So my family, my mum and dad actually were in and out of jail a lot when I was younger. And so I really believe in people and that they can change and break the cycle. And so I'm really, I'm an example of that. And I love where I work. I work in an adolescent juvenile centre. So we have young people from about 10 years old to 21. And I see so many similarities in myself to the boys. So especially I love to, I tell my story to them. And I like to think that I inspire them and encourage them. Some of these young people have never seen medical professionals before. They're very reluctant, they're scared, but we build up their confidence and really try and encourage them to change their lives. So, yeah. And I get to do the medical stuff too, so it's like a win-win.
Oh, good. So what would a typical day look like for you? Because you do have other responsibilities as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do have
a very full agenda.
I have 2 children, so that's difficult doing rotating shift work, but my husband is amazing and we have good support from family as well. So, but at work, we do, like I said, a lot of the boys have never seen a health professional in a long time, or their health is quite low. So we like to, vaccinate them, do full health checks. We are kind of the middle people in referring to them different services. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what are the personal highlights in your life?
Mm-hmm. Well, due to the scholarship, I've been able to completely change my life. Like I said, when I got the scholarship, I knew that it would change my life, but I didn't realise how much. I have 9 siblings and we all grew up in foster care, separated, and it was quite awful. And I always knew that education was a way to change my life. And so I'm so thankful for this opportunity, because I truly don't think that I would have gone to uni, even though I was clearly capable and driven, but I just wouldn't have even known how to go about it. But my husband, we were able to get married. That was amazing, and we had a really beautiful wedding. Obviously, I got my degree, which was really amazing. We just bought our home 2 years ago. I absolutely wouldn't have been able to do that. We just bought our dream car, Tesla. Wouldn't have been able to do that. So, yeah, we've gone on family holidays. Yeah, so we live an amazing life. And honestly, thank you so much to everyone who has helped with that.
So wonderful.
And it not only changes my life, but my children's lives and their children and their children. So it's so ongoing. And
Shantell, that's so lovely that you tell us all this. So have you got any future other career goals already? I think your children are quite young, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 9 and 6. So
9 and 6, yeah.
Once they get a bit older, I think. But I'm interested in education too, so.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm glad you've got your dream job, because when you've studied so hard and you've had those hurdles, it's really satisfying, isn't it, to get what you really want to do.
Yeah.
So
that day that I graduated the ceremony was so great, and some of the sisters were there, so it was good.
Yeah. No. So thank you, Shantell.
Well, thank you.
Wow. So now I'd like to introduce you to Sister Anne Mayberry, who is a sister of charity. She's part of community care, and she runs the remote and rural ministry, correct, in New South Wales. And she's just one of these people, when you go to communities that people trust. You develop wonderful relationships, and that's how you can actually connect to those communities. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about, obviously we know that in rural and regional areas they've had a really tough time. We've seen floods, we've seen droughts. I hear now people are now preparing for future droughts because of so it's really a tough time, and Sister Anne travels hundreds of kilometres in her big 4-wheel drive, which has a rhubarb and a few other things, but it's nice and big because it allows her to carry lots of goodies. I think she's probably seen as sort of Santa Claus coming with good joy. So you take lots of essential items, and you support those communities with many practical things like groceries, petrol vouchers, etc. And she visits schools and takes toys as well. But she also supports them in way of looking at schools and recognising that many of these children, particularly since the pandemic, have really been isolated and disadvantaged and haven't been able to attend excursions and things like that. So she's able to give them some assistance so those children are able to live normal lives and not be disadvantaged for rural areas. So Sister Anne, I want to ask you about your career. We'll start with your career, is that all right? I want to learn about your teaching career, and then when you joined the sisters. And
thank you, Louise, first of all, for inviting me to this lovely gathering. I joined the Sisters of Charity in mid-1960s, and my first teaching post was to Melbourne in 1973, and I was there for 6 years and thought, well, this is good. At the end of 6 years, I'll go back to Sydney. No, I went to Hobart, and I was there for 3 years in Hobart, and it was a wonderful time. because it was like a working holiday. The children down there were just so hungry for learning, and it was just a wonderful time. And then I thought, good, this must be back to Sydney by now. But no, I went back to Melbourne again. And I was there for another 4 years, and then in 1986 I finally went back to Sydney. And so I taught for about 36 years. And I think, I say 41, but in those 41 years I worked as a glass artist for about 6 years. And not making stained glass windows, but lead light windows. There is a difference. And so then when the end of my time, they decided to bulldoze the building I was working in. So I thought, well, there's only one thing to do, and that's go back to teaching. So my first posting was to Cobar. And that was, I was out there for 6 months on a maternity leave excursion, and it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. When you live in a place like that, you join everything. You go to the Mardi Gras, and you go to the blessing of the fleece in the shed in 40 degrees, and you go to every art exhibition, and you go to the pub for dinner at night, and you go to the golf club for dinner. It was a wonderful experience. So then I came back to Sydney and did a few schools, and finally went back to the school I started at when I came back from Melbourne in 1986. And that was the school I left in 9 years ago. I've been doing this work for 9 years. And the one thing I remember about that last day at OLMC school, a little boy came up to me in the playground and he said to me, "You can't leave." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "I need you." Now, this was a little boy I'd worked with for the last year. Every day I worked with him in his classroom at a desk, and he was very academically endowed with good intelligence and very creative. But I sat with him because he was very disruptive in the class. So after working with him for 12 months, he says to me, "You can't go, I need you." I said, "No, you'll be right." I said, "You've got good brains." I said, "You've got good ability." And I said, "You'll get somewhere." So luckily I went to his graduation 12 months later, and he got an award, and he was so happy. So I raced over and hugged him, and I said, "I told you you'd do it." So things like that really stick in your mind with education especially. So once a teacher, always a teacher.
So what are the critical issues facing farmers and people in rural or remote areas?
Well, how much time have you got? The thing with people in farming communities, they don't ever seem to get over the situation. Like in a drought, understandably, the farmers who make the hay, they're going to put the prices up. Now, I heard just recently a bale of hay that I've seen purchased for $30 is now $110. And for farmers who can afford it, that's fine. But for farmers who can't afford it and don't have the money, what do? They've got to worry about their cattle, what sort of quality they want in their cattle when the cattle are sold. And at the moment, good cattle weighing 1,000 kilos are selling for $1.20 a kilo. $1.20. So is there any meat that we can buy in the shops for $1.20 a kilo? No. So with droughts, with floods, with fires, the situation just goes on. The people in southern New South Wales are still living in tents, in caravans from the fires down there. People in Lismore are still living in tents. The people at Eugowra that I've been out to a couple of times recently, they're living in pods. It's like a big caravan. It's rounded on the end, and they're made on site, and they move them to the farmer's property, and they live in those. And meanwhile, the houses, the doors are open wide, the windows are open wide, trying to dry them out and prevent rot. And any money they have, they're using to buy materials to try and get the house back in order. So that means money is not there for groceries. And it's all these little things, seeming little to us, but big things to them. I just wish sometimes I was a multimillionaire, because you go out there and you feel so helpless because you don't really have much to give them. But the thing they do love is your support, and to think that somebody cares about them. That's what they want, but I'd love to give so much more. And with drought, with fires, it's the same. At one stage in Lismore, they were asking for cardboard, big cardboard boxes that they could flatten and put onto their walls instead of the plaster that used to be on their walls, because they had nothing on their frames of their houses. They wanted cardboard. And I thought to myself, this is Australia. You know, what can we do? What are we doing for these people? And they're still living like that. The number of houses down in Yagara where people have just walked out and the front verandas are just laden with all their household goods. They've just walked out and left it. And it's just heartbreaking, but you do what you can, but you just feel so helpless. So I just wish I had so much more to give them.
So how do you decide where you're going to go on your trip?
Well, in New South Wales I go as far as Moree up north and as far down as Holbrook, Tumbarumba, Batlow. I just go wherever I call into a school and talk to the principal. Although there were 2 schools that won't talk to me, would you believe? The principals won't come out. So I don't go there anymore. But most principals are so happy to see you and they're so grateful. They greet you like a long-lost friend. You know, you get a kiss and a hug and, oh, come and have a cup of tea with us. And they're just so happy to see you because they know you really genuinely care about them. And we've been, with the money that we have given them, we've been able to give children medical care, like children who go to Newcastle to see a specialist there that they haven't been able to see for months. Children with behavioural problems are able to get help. One principal said to me one day, next time you come, I want you to stay all day. He said, and I want you to meet these children that you've helped with having medical attention. But unfortunately, I didn't get there because he was a lovely man, the principal. He had a very bad breakdown. And the deputy took over and she was lovely and now she's resigned. So that's one thing I find really hard with the schools because you meet them 1 month and then you go back 2 months later and they've retired due to ill health or the pressures. Sometimes in some of these schools the pressures are just so great. And the grandparents are involved in helping a lot of these children. They virtually rear the children because parents are unable to do it. So they even have grandmother days, grandparent days, to recognise the grandparents and what they've done for the children. What else was the question?
I just find we love when Sister Anne comes back and reports into the foundation what she's been doing, because as you can see and hear from her, she's just making such an incredible difference in these communities. And I'm sure you never look for thank yous, but...
No. The one thing is I don't meet any of the people that we help. I don't meet the parents, I don't meet the children. I just do it through the principal. So that's one good thing in a way. I don't pick and choose as to who we're going to help. I don't see the people. I did meet a group of children one day at their veggie patch up in the Hunter, and some of the money that we'd given them, they built a veggie patch and bought seeds and got some irrigation set up to water their veggies. So that was the only time I saw them, but I'd love to go and see them and talk to them, but, you know, that's another issue. One little family down south, down Yasway actually, I send the money to a Mercy sister down there and she delivers the money to people. And she gave $50 to a mother down there who had 2 children, and the $50 was to be used for petrol. And they went to Canberra for the day. And they were so excited just to go to Canberra for the day. They'd never been before. And this little fellow wrote me a card, which I've still got at home, and he said, "Thank you for helping us and making us feel so special." And it stops you in your tracks. It makes you think, what did I do? You know, what is that child feeling to say, you made me feel so special? You know, you just wonder what's going on in their little minds. I've got folders at home full of thank you cards and thank you letters that you don't expect. And a lot of them are written by the children. But they just want to thank you because they never thought anybody else would come to their aid and help them or give them some little treat.
We want to thank you, Sister Anne, for what you do, and just keep us informed and see how we can help you more, because,
Thank you, Louise.
you know, it really is wonderful. That grassroots on the ground, they trust you, and you know you're getting immediate feedback on what their needs are, which is really, really important.
Can I just say about that booklet that I gave you? On my last trip to the south, the Riverina, just recently, I went to Geelong, and there is a sister there at Geelong. She's from a Canberra community, and she set up a place in the old convent for women who are drug affected, alcohol affected, domestic violence, incarceration, homelessness. And she's doing an absolutely sterling job. I gave Louisa the booklet, I've got another one, and you can read all about what she does, and she's just an absolute marvel. And I called in the other day and gave her a cheque, and I said, I wish I could multiply this by 50. She has professional staff working with the girls and the women, and they have their own veggie patch, and they do chores, and they have meditation every day, and they have study, and they have psychiatrists and all those sort of people coming in to help them. And it's the most wonderful place. Down at Geelong it is, and if you drove through Geelong, you wouldn't look twice at Geelong because it's so deserted and forlorn. But that's the idea of it, because it's out of the way of everybody. They're from all over New South Wales, and nobody, especially in domestic violence, the husbands can't find them. They don't know where they are. So that is a wonderful, wonderful ministry she's doing.
Thank you, Sister Anne. Oh my goodness, so much to take in. But now we have Claudia, who is our last speaker. And Claudia Cummins is the State Manager for Family Violence and Modern Slavery Services for New South Wales and ACT. And as I was saying to many people, she has been really our lead for a long time for the Modern Slavery Transitional Housing Program, which is a unique program that the Foundation funds, providing that transitional housing for survivors of modern slavery. We know in New South Wales, the latest statistics is 16,400 people, which is quite incredible. And, you know, you are sort of the real expert in this area, Claudia, and we often turn to you for sort of understanding more. But also you're studying in this area. You're studying at UTS, is that correct?
At University of Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, sorry.
Graduate certificate in modern slavery.
Exactly. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and the Safe House and how it works? And that'd be great.
Yeah, so the Trafficking and Slavery Safe House is a program run by the Salvation Army, and it's been in operation since 2008, and it's actually the only safe house of its kind in Australia for adult women who have escaped a situation of modern slavery and human trafficking. I'm sure because we have amazing donors in the room who are really engaged in this topic, and thank you for all of the work you do. Many of you may already know quite a bit about what modern slavery looks like in Australia, but I guess just to give you a bit of a brief overview, it's actually a really broad range of different types of human rights abuses. So we see people coming to the Safe House who might have experienced forced labour and exploitation in all different settings, whether that's a commercial setting or if it's in a home, in a domestic servitude setting where someone has literally been kept in a home as a slave, sometimes for multiple years. And you might have seen some of the cases that have recently been prosecuted through the courts around that as well. It also includes sex trafficking and sexual exploitation, again, in commercial settings, in the sex industry, in brothels, but also sometimes in more informal settings where someone is coercing and exploiting that person and denying them their freedoms and abusing them in that way. And it can look like all different things. Also forced marriage as well, which is one of the highest reported forms of modern slavery, unfortunately, in Australia, impacting mainly young people, usually young women and girls. And that's when someone is not fully and freely consenting to a marriage and is instead being coerced into that marriage. So the Safe House exists as an accommodation service, first and foremost, a women's refuge, and a case management service, and it provides that crisis accommodation response for people. We've got a 10-bedroom house, but the issue we were having is that we were getting a bottleneck effect where it actually would take people a really long time to be able to be ready to move on from the Safe House into their own independent accommodation. often you can imagine as well that people are migrants who might not be able to access our government benefits, or it might take them several years to be in a position to actually access public housing or something like that. So we had people coming in and being supported by the Safe House, but staying at the Safe House sometimes for years and years before they're ready to actually be able to move into another housing pathway, which is why the transitional housing has been such an impactful program and is actually addressing this gap in a way that's really innovative as well, because we're not just relying on having a few homes or houses in the community in different locations. It's taking a head leasing model so that the survivor themselves can think about where's going to work for them to live, what size of home they need. We've supported families on the program. We've had people who might have become friends who have gone into that housing together and been housemates, which is very good in the Sydney rental market to do, and also lots of people who have needed a studio apartment for themselves. So it offers that flexibility, which is, much more conducive to people being able to move into that next independent phase of life.
And you still have the caseworkers supporting the person as they're learning to be independent, is that
That's
correct?
right. Yeah, the casework's a really important ongoing support for that person, because you can imagine for somebody who has never rented themselves in Australia before, they haven't ever had that opportunity. They may have had a lot of their rights taken away in their experience of modern slavery and may not be familiar with Australian systems, may not be familiar with having access to their own money, managing their own money, and they also might be learning English or getting their first job in Australia as well, their first non-exploitative work. So all of these things they do need support through to make sure that when they move into their new transitional housing that they're going to succeed and that they understand what their rights are as a tenant, and they can connect in with their new local community and build up their own network of support so that they can sustain that tenancy and take over the lease at the 12-month period as well.
So when do you know that they're ready to join the program, like to leave the safe house?
Yeah, it's really different for everyone, because some everyone's experience is really unique, and some people might have a longer mental health recovery journey. Some people might have a longer journey in terms of being able to acquire English skills so that they can get their first employment. But usually it's around when they have got their first employment in Australia, they've got a steady source of income, or they can see a pathway to that occurring. And it often happens naturally as well that the Safe House is a really supportive space where people can meet other survivors and have the supportive staff on site, but it's a confidential location, and you can't have visitors to the house. So it's also a time usually in their life where they actually really would relish that opportunity to start creating their own community and their own network of support, and be inviting people into their home and being able to engage in that way as well.
Can you tell us about a survivor? Obviously de-identified, but just a case study that you've looked after.
Yeah. I think I have to think about a recent young person who took over her lease. She was a young person who came to be in contact with the Safe House when she was, I think in her early 20s, and was at risk of forced marriage. And actually a friend of hers was the one who said, this is not right, what's happening, that you need to reach out for support, because she was at risk of being forced overseas into getting married. And she reached out for support from the Salvation Army, and we spoke to her about her rights and options. And slowly over time, because for her, it was all about building trust, to really understand that there was a system that would support her, to make that really difficult decision that it was actually safest for her to leave home and leave her family for that time. And so we supported her to connect in with the Federal Police and to connect in with the Red Cross program as well, which provided hotel accommodation for her for quite an extended period of time. And you can imagine as well, youth refuge accommodation might not always be appropriate for someone who's coming out of this type of situation. It might be confronting in another way as well. So she was in hotel accommodation for herself for several months. But this young person, she had employment very quickly, and she said, yep, if I can find a place that's in this local area, I'm ready to live by myself. And she had these really good friends as well. So she came onto the Transitional Housing Program. We supported her with finding a property and with subsidising her rent for the first 6 months to give her a really good period of time to build up her safety savings. Many people in the program might have that period extended to the full 12 months, but she was able to be ready at that point. We supported her with setting up her tenancy, learning about her tenancy rights, getting all the furniture for the home, fitting it all out. And she worked with the case manager as anything popped up, anything she wasn't sure about, ongoing issues with family and safety. She had that support of our case manager throughout that period. But she sent this email when after she had taken over the lease and we'd had a few final casework meetings and checked that she had the supports she needed. She sent an email just expressing her gratitude for the impact of the program. And the thing that stuck with me was that she said, "I felt so proud when I got my first electricity bill. I loved getting my first electricity bill and seeing my name on it." And I was like, wow, you don't hear that every day. And she just said, to me, it showed me that I had done it. I was independent. I was an independent woman, and I was able to pay that bill and manage that herself. So that was really special.
Wow. Yeah, we don't want to see too many electricity bills, do we?
Yeah, especially at the moment.
So, Claudia, with this rental crisis, is it impacting on the program?
Well, it's a really tough market at the moment. It has meant that we work with Salvo's Housing, a community housing provider who head leases the property and sets up the lease with the survivor. And we have really needed to think creatively and to start building partnerships with real estate agents so that actually they know our program, they know the importance of it, they know that the rent is guaranteed for that first 12 months and that actually their tenants are going to probably be wonderful tenants who are going to really look after that home and make the most of that opportunity. And so we do need to actually get access to some of those properties before they go onto the market, and we have 60 other people applying for them as well, because it's a tough market at the moment. And it has meant that the casework aspect of the program has been really integral because people do need a lot more support finding that property and really understanding, what the reality is of renting in Sydney at the moment as well, and thinking about, okay, well, this is a stepping stone as well, and this might be a good option for now, and then if I can get a housemate in, then I could go into a different type of property later. But it's giving people choices when they might not have many other choices besides staying in crisis accommodation otherwise. So yeah, it's definitely it's a bit of a tough time, but it kind of shows even more the importance of the program and having the support net as well for people, because we have had people on the program who may have had a relapse in terms of mental health or drug and alcohol journey that they've been on, and having the support of the program, which means that they don't become homeless in that, and there's that time for them to recoup and continue on. That's really important, especially for survivors of something like modern slavery, where there is that risk sometimes of re-exploitation as well.
I think what's great about the Transitional Housing Program is that it actually provides people with choice. Like, it's not dedicated housing. They can choose where they feel safe and secure living, ideally close to their workplace, a community that they might already know, etc. So it's really, that flexibility is brilliant. Do you think there'll be expansion across Australia?
I know that there's a need for it, and I know there's been plenty of research that has shown that, again, accommodation is a key part of a survivor's journey, because without a safe place to live, people can't feel safe and move on to other aspects of their life and their goals. So there's certainly the need, and that's been recognised, I think, really widely in the sector, and certainly amongst the feedback that we hear from survivors themselves. So yes, we hope so.
Well, we love partnering with you, and thank you for the guidance you give us. And, we're hoping to grow the program. And as you know, just this year, or just in July, we had a campaign called Raise the Roof, where we're trying to raise funds to actually boost our program so that we could support
more people who are survivors in transitional housing. And currently we're able to fund 6 people and also provide that casework support. So we hope in time to grow it, don't we? Because it's great working with the Salvation Army. They really do know on the ground. And you provide that safe environment. It's so important to have safety when these people have been so traumatised. And as you say, they can be re-traumatised. So thank you, Claudia.
Thank you all.
Well, I think tonight, I hope you have been totally blown away and inspired by each of our speakers. Each of them are true change makers. They really do, make an incredible difference in the communities that they work and are really inspirations. So I thank each of them. And I actually just wanted to leave you with a little paragraph that I sort of think that, the people here who've been great, who are supporters of the foundation, would like to hear. And it's a paragraph that is actually at the Heritage Centre. And if you haven't been to the Sisters of Charity Heritage Centre, please speak with us and we'll take you on a lovely visit, because it is really the whole history of what the Sisters of Charity have achieved, and particularly in Australia, they are absolutely awesome. I don't know, that's probably not the word that Sister Lauren would like us to say, but they really are risk takers, and they have, they've gone to places that none of us would have ever thought about. You would remember when they worked at St Vincent's that they were looking after the patients with HIV. They were the sisters who were campaigning for the injecting room. So we hope through the foundation we live that mission and we live the tradition of the Sisters of Charity through working to people who are really the marginalised, supporting the marginalised and those people who really are not supported by others. So I'd like to just share this with you, and I think this probably speaks to all of you. We can all be people of thought and action, and this is from the Heritage Centre. We can choose a fairer world. We can advocate for the voiceless. We can challenge the unjust, and we can respond to the need where we see it. So I thank each of you for your support of the foundation and hope you'll continue on the journey. And I thank our speakers tonight, and I encourage you to mingle, speak to our speakers, but also to have a lovely glass of wine or whatever and enjoy the great hospitality of Tom. Tom's been working very hard. Tom, voice of Thompson Gear. Thank you, Tom, for looking after us tonight. Good evening, and thank you again.